Hey y'all, it's your girl Michaela, and welcome back to another great episode of Live, Learn, and Exercise, the podcast. We're here for part two of my conversation with Tom, and we get into some really high level and sophisticated talk about inclusion, especially in our industry, which is the fitness industry, but it's absolutely applicable to all organizations and all group dynamics. We dive into the humility that it takes to have a two-way conversation and to perspective take and do something I call empathetic real talk. We talk about how inclusion opens the doors to so many opportunities, namely retention and collaboration and growth in knowledge. We also just simply talk about peeling back all the layers at work and just really becoming one with that sense that I matter as a human being, and so I know that others matter. And when we can do that, how that just creates relationships and bonds and productivity that you wouldn't imagine. So join us in this conversation. I look forward to seeing your comments, to hearing your input, and I'll see you after the show. So, inclusion is fitness. Let's talk about it.
And I've seen you do this, I've seen you do this both in fitness spaces, but you do it also in forums, at various conferences. You invite everyone in a really wonderful way that makes the space just inviting and open and free. And I can see how I think you very naturally translate what you might do in a group exercise class or with 100 personal training clients who bring 100 different backgrounds and range of experiences together. I see you do that when you're facilitating conversations as well. And that's, I don't know, that's a real power you have. That's
Thank you.
one of your superpowers.
Thank you. It's a skill that I've been able to hone through my work, with you and, the people in our circle. The confidence, I always say in a lot of the rooms that we are together in, very often I'm one of few women, and I'm most certainly one of very, very few Black women. And so, we talk in the realm of inclusion, we talk about sponsorship and allies and advocacy. And so, I very much feel like you and some of our colleagues, they were very instrumental in giving me the platform and the confidence to be able to create that space for others to join in. And so I don't take it for granted that, because I have to say something important, that I could be given a platform to do it, right? Especially on such a global stage. That was an intentional decision and continues to be an intentional decision by the leaders in our industry to allow and participate, right? Yeah. And so because of that buy-in and that level of collaboration, I feel empowered to do my part. Yeah. And then that empowerment is validated because when I enter spaces, I have collaboration, I have support, I even have healthy discord. I have people who ask me questions and challenge me and force me to either refine my position or, in the best case scenario, pivot, right? They bring something to the table that I might not have thought through to the extent that they have, or they've added something to the conversation and made me say, you know what? I never considered that. And so that is, again, that creates loyalty from a person like me to an organization like the one that, we work in, because of that space, like the space that you say that I create for others, our circle has created for me. And this is what the fitness industry does, right? Like, you're creating safe space for people to be vulnerable. You're creating safe, like, literally our clients are trusting us with their body, like literally They're trusting that when we set them up on a piece of machine, or if we put them in a position and we're asking them to hold, a plank for 10 seconds longer than they want, that they're not going to break anything, that they're not going to injure anything, right? And so that's that type of collaboration and trust and mutual respect and back and forth.
Yeah.
That kind of human relations will make anything grow. And so I know, like in our industry, I often talk to chief executives and business owners about high turnover rates, especially like in mid-management, senior management levels, and losing these huge percentages of our client base, to out of the gym and things like that. And I will say this until someone proves me wrong, but it's inclusion.
Yeah.
People stay where they feel respected, appreciated, and like their time is worth it. They're valuable contributors while being unique individuals. Like I don't have to assimilate in order to be heard or to contribute. Right? People stay in jobs like that. People stay in jobs where they feel like they're being paid for the value of what they contribute and not undershot based off of whatever. People stay in places where when they walk into the space, before anybody says anything or does anything to them, they feel happy, right? I don't have to put on a mask to be here. If I make a mistake, it's not catastrophe. If I want to, I change my hair up every day. I had a way different hairstyle yesterday, right? And people, I always tell people, you got to look in my eyes because the hair is going to change. But where I don't have to explain it every day. Like seriously, you don't understand the way wigs work. Stop playing with me. You know what it is, okay?
But I need to look into it myself. I like to change it up every day.
Right, where I'm in spaces where I can be passionate and outspoken and voice, an alternate perspective without being looked at or casted as angry or emotional or out of line and things like that. People will stay in jobs like that. Hell, I'm staying in a job because of that, where I feel like I can show up as my full self at work. I don't want to take a risk going to a new company where I don't know if that's the case, So, like I said, I'm kind of going on tangents, but what I mean by all of this is that this idea of inclusion, creating belonging, and maintaining authenticity in the people and all the stakeholders that's inside companies, that's in our communities. This idea of bringing in more voices, the more voices, the better, right? And going beyond surface line fault lines, right? It's easy to try to, you want to get into, African-American market to bring a whole bunch of Black people in. No, right? Black people are not a monolith. You can't bring 3 people to the table and then get a gauge on what Black people think. I had to tell my company one time when we started doing heritage celebrations, and Black History Month came up, and people started asking me damn questions. It's like, first of all, I don't want to plan my own party. Okay, that's number one.
All right. Yep.
2, I am not the authority on all Black people. You gotta do you gotta do something different, and so the more diverse perspectives, the more voices, period, because even people that on the surface look alike or have similar social identifiers, they are individuals. They may think different. Their backgrounds are different. Their approach is different. Their personalities are different. And all of that diversity matters, right? One person's approach might be more suitable for this client. Another person's personality might be suitable for this organization. You got to embrace all the chaos of that and try to harness it into something that gives you power, that gives you information, and that gives you motivation to add layers to whatever it is that you're doing, instead of, narrowing yourself to one slither of, the market or the organization. So It makes a lot of sense to me.
I think what you're describing is one of the most important skills that we could have in America in 2025, and this ability to have conversations with a broad range of people, facilitate conversations, have one-on-one conversations. Um, I'd be really curious, how do you approach conversations with people who come from different backgrounds, different perspectives, and you just want to have a human connection with them? How do you
I
what's your
go into that conversation not putting my biases about who I think they are in the forefront. I don't know how different they are. I might know that they're racially different. I might know that they're a different gender, or maybe I can think they're a different gender, but I don't go into conversations assuming that there's alignment or misalignment.
Mm,
I
uh,
also try to engage. So, the feedback sandwich, I try to engage people in conversations that allow me to connect. And these are the skills that I've honed as a fitness provider. When I'm first meeting a client, I'm not talking about fitness. I want to know, what's their background. Are they a parent? Are they not a parent? Where'd they go to
yeah.
school? Where'd you grow up? I'm looking for ways for us to connect on a deeper level. So then when I have to have the tough conversations, they know that our communication is not all about back and forth. Like, the discord is an element of it, but we actually connect on so many different levels. So maybe I can actually validate and buy into what she's saying, because it's not only about the difference. So
Mm,
I'm all about finding commonality, and I also use it as a way to get my point across. And
hmm
so one of the workshops that I did at my first conference, HFA conference, was having all the people that were in my workshop. I just, without identifying any social background or whatever, just had them identify a time where they felt like they were negatively impacted by biases, and then also when they were positively affected by biases. And in one room, you had middle-aged white men sharing experiences where they felt like the victims of bias, which is valid. Like, racial minorities don't have a monopoly on that. Okay, everybody, people are bullied as kids,
hmm
people, different religion, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
People can identify with an experience, even if they might not be able to identify with, a race or stuff like that, right? So we
Yeah.
did that, and then we talked about positive biases, and I was, told a story about how I positively benefit from being a Georgetown Hoya in DC. Like, when I
Mm,
was in the job market, I know by putting Georgetown
yeah.
2003, I knew people were going to automatically associate a whole lot of stuff with that. And so
Yeah.
then we got into groups and we just talked about that. And it was a unifying thing. And the point of that was to make the case for diversity and inclusion from a common experience perspective versus a racial or gender or sexual
Mm,
orientation alliance perspective. Because
mm,
the races and the genders and the sexual orientation and the religion and the ages may vary depending on who you talk to. But if you could get in the habit of tapping someone's feeling about an experience, the chances of them understanding when it happens to you is greater,
mm.
right? And
Yep.
so that's what it is. It's about connecting on experience, and it's powerful. It's a really powerful thing for, someone who one of the middle-aged white males said, I grew up poor my whole life. I walked into a space, and this person automatically thought that, I was this rich person who couldn't relate, and ostracized me from this group because they thought that I was judging them. Da, 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 da. And he's like, I'm just like you. I grew up in the same socioeconomic
Yeah.
background as you. Like, I'm here with you. So whatever you think that I'm coming at you with, you have misunderstood and misjudged me, because the perspective that I brought to you wasn't from somebody who doesn't understand that plight. The perspective that I brought to you was as that of a boss or a professional. I'm talking from that perspective. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about this perspective. And it was very, very powerful to experience, sort of like people defying odds in that respect.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and you're modeling understanding for people in that exercise too. So as you're acknowledging that everyone brings their own experiences and their challenges as they walk through their own journeys. As you model that, or as you acknowledge theirs, I think it's easier for other people to acknowledge others all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, because they feel understood and maybe they were surprised that someone was like, "Yeah, okay, I get that," you know.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, like disagreement doesn't mean misalignment,
yeah,
right? And what I mean is that like intercultural competence says that the way that I value myself as a person with my own ideas whose ideas should be respected, and I want people to hear me out when I speak, that type of awareness that I have about who I am and how I want to be received allows me to extend that same grace and respect to others.
mm,
So if I'm passionate and dug in on my perspective, how could I not expect that other person to be dug in and passionate about their perspective? It
yeah,
doesn't mean that I agree with them, but it means that I can take away some of the layers of anger and disagreement because they're just riding for their cause the way I'm riding for my cause. Now, the question is, how do we reconcile that? And
yeah,
so that's how I enter conversations. I don't enter it from the way that person's perspective makes me feel. I want to be a leader who enters conversations based on the outcome that I desire. And if the outcome I desire is unification, collaboration, respect, the worst thing I can do is invalidate that person's perspective.
yeah,
If I want that person to hear me, the worst thing I can do is shut them down and make them feel lesser about themselves or make them feel like what they have to say doesn't matter. That is counterintuitive to the outcome I want. Now, that might validate how I want them how I want to clap back or fight with them. But if the intention is not to fight and it's
yeah,
actually to push through, then you have to extend grace and humility and give other people the space to be their unique, authentic individual selves, like the
yeah,
way you want to be respected, so long as it doesn't harm you physically or mentally.
yeah.
And none of the conversations I've ever had in the fitness industry even threaten to harm me physically or mentally.
Good.
So
Good.
we
Yes.
we march on, and that's the thing. It's putting it's empathy. It's like
Yeah,
understanding, yes, I understand how you could feel that way because I feel like that about my position too.
yeah,
And when you clear the space for that type of respect and that type of communication, you'd be really shocked at what information can penetrate, because now so much of resistance is sort of a response to how that person made you feel. You're
yeah,
not fighting the message all the time. You're fighting the approach.
yeah,
How dare you? Why are you talking to me like that? Why are you disrespecting me? Why are you not hearing me? You're not, you might agree with what they're saying to the T, but you can't even get there because your defenses and your fight is up against the approach. And so I try to disarm people in that way, even though I have strong opinions and I've been called an angry Black woman in my time too. But even though I do have a strong voice and strong opinions, I try to take that off the table. And so if you disagree with me, it's never
yeah,
going to be because I was angry. It's never going to be because
yeah,
I was not articulate. It's
yeah,
never going to be because I came at you with disrespect. If you disagree with me, it's only going to be because you disagree with me. You're not going to have the excuse or the distractions of saying anything else. And
yeah.
that's my goal. And when I communicate with people who I know maybe on the opposite side of, politically or, as far as any of this is concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, that really, 'cause sometimes you mentioned collaboration and unification and respect, and certainly sometimes collaboration and unification aren't going to happen. But
Mm-hmm.
if you can prove respect, it leaves the door open for other ways of connection.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever need an alternative name for this podcast, it should be Michaela explains the world to Tom. Because you order it in a way that makes very much sense. It's like I have a general sense of how I think things should be. And then you articulate it in a way that like there's a really great framework for it. Um,
Thank you, my friend. So wait, you said Michaela explains the world to Tom?
yes, or to anyone. It should be whoever, or
Love
to the
it.
world.
I love it. Yeah,
Because
this
what you just said is it just it validates my experience with people. You find some we can all connect on some level, and then those connections build greater connections, and we don't have to agree on everything. That's okay, but the more connections we have, the better. Uh, I worry a lot about our society and our culture right now, and how fragmented we are, and
yeah,
I just I think the vast majority of people feel that we are connected, but that either that we're having just trouble getting there. But we all
right.
kind of have this yearning to be connected in some way. We just got to find those points. And I think when well, you and I connect instantly, but when I often find myself asking you about how to make connections, and uh and your approach is what's always given me hope that, and like sort of a model for that. I hope, there's a way forward here, and it's
Right.
in respect and listening, and humility and grace certainly seem like the foundation.
Yeah, respect, humility, and empathetic perspective taken. And
Mm,
so, I mean, we talked about Michael's affirmations. My a few of my daily affirmations are, I'm an excellent active listener.
mm,
I ask more questions than assert
yeah,
opinions. I'm a, type A extrovert leader type. And
mm,
so that's a gift in so many respects, but it also can sometimes be a curse if it's not harnessed. And in spaces where you're trying to make people feel psychologically safe,
hmm,
um, a person who talks and leads and provides input more than they listen can actually create a psychologically unsafe space. And you
mm,
can also miss jewels and nuggets that allow for collaboration or coming together. And
right.
so in this stage in my life, and this is in my relationship, even with my children, and in romantic relationships, but definitely professionally, I aspire to be a better and a high achieving active listener,
Yes.
and an empathetic perspective taker, and someone who asks questions instead of asserting opinions.
Yeah.
And so, this idea of asking questions when someone brings something to you, it makes them more of a stakeholder in the outcome or the resolution. So, for instance, I was doing a one on one with one of my employees yesterday, and he was saying, it's a shame that, the emphasis is supposed to be on this department, yet we don't do this. And in my previous state, maybe even a couple weeks ago, I might have said, absolutely not. Where were you? How did you step up?
Yeah.
Take matters into your own hands, such and such. That's how I felt. That's
Yeah.
how I felt yesterday. But instead of saying that, I said, so tell me, in the best case scenario, what would support look like? How do you envision reconciling the importance you say our organization puts on this department with the initiatives that go to supporting that?
Mm,
What do you think should happen? And two things typically happen, and two things happen. Yes, one of two things happened yesterday. Either a person is lost because they have not thought that far through that statement, they're just there to complain
yeah.
and to get some negative energy out,
Yeah.
or light bulb moments happen where
Yeah.
they understand that they have a strong internal locus of control. They can actually control some of this narrative, but they have relinquished power to external forces that they can't control.
Yeah.
And they start to internalize this idea that I can be a leader in this respect. I can make this happen. And it's like this, it's this beautiful experience that I'm learning from not just being the smartest person in the room, like I always think I am, right? Like, no, share the wealth. Let somebody else experience being the smartest person in the room. And it's this beautiful skill that I've been, I'm practicing and I'm working, and I hope to become an expert at. And it's a element of collaboration. It's fed by respect. Like, not only am I asking this question, I respect this person enough to want to hear what they actually come out with. And I'm advocating for them. I'm trying to show them that they have some skills and they have some cognitive abilities that they might not have thought they had coming into the room. I'm empowering them to be a leader. I am creating a safe space for them not only to voice their concerns, but to be a part of the solution. And so this is a skill set that is very, very unique to inclusive leadership. Yes. Inclusive leadership is about empowering others, especially people who have felt marginalized for whatever reason, empowering others to participate in a substantive way.
Yeah.
And so, it was funny. I was like, what you got to say? It's like, oh, well, I never thought. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's exciting to think about all the knowledge and innovation and just great ideas that are going to flourish when more people are invited and asked to give, to be empowered in that way. I mean, inclusive leadership is about empowering other leaders, as you said. That's
every man is a leader. Every woman is a leader. Doesn't matter what your status is. It doesn't matter what your position is. And I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead and finish, and I have something to say on that.
That I just imagine you'd be so much more productive as an organization if you're making sure that the quiet person, or the person who's just always been sort of disgruntled, no one's ever asked that person for their, or told them that, or her, that they could make a difference in some way. Or like you said, what would you do? What do you think I should do? That's not traditional leadership, and that just puts a lid on so many perspectives. And if you're the CEO of an organization, you should be empowering every leader to be empowering the people below them to become
leaders. You should be the decider, but not the primary decision maker.
How could you be?
How could
you couldn't know what's going on?
Humility. That's how you could be. It's humility. So, for instance, I have a really talented housekeeping team. And society, and this is a sort of a broad reaching statement, but society tends to look at housekeepers, for instance, as sort of lower rank, like you're doing that because you can't do something else. And that's a prevailing bias. In my club, my housekeepers are the experts on all things cleanliness and maintenance. So one of the biggest mistakes that I could ever make is making any housekeeping decisions, whether it's supplies, whether it's task approach, without engaging them in collaborative dialogue. Because guess what? Even though I manage them and I sign payroll for them, they are the experts. They do the job way better than I could do the job. They do the job and have more reps doing the job than I could ever imagine. And so leadership is not from a perch. There's a lot of people who think leadership is telling people what to do. First thing you could do. Leadership is letting the experts have a say. And part of letting the experts have a say is you don't know who's an expert or not until you bring everybody in. Like thinking you know who the expert is actually exclusive. You don't know who the expert is until you bring them in. That's leadership. Leadership is not looking at something from your perch, drawing up something that feels good to you, and then telling others what to do. That's the way you create turnover. That's the way you decrease respect and value in what you say, because no one is going to respect the words of someone who they know does not do the job. and
Yeah.
they know made a unilateral decision that doesn't even apply to the job, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's all about collaboration and respect. And
Yes.
in order for you to do that, you have to have the humility to say, even though I have the title and I have the position, I am not the unilateral decision maker. Everyone in here is the decision maker. Everyone who has something to do with this, and even the people who don't have something to do with this, they play a role. Because just because they don't have something to do with it now doesn't mean they're not going to have something to do with it tomorrow. Or that their actions and their perspectives don't impact how we're doing it. Right.
Yes.
And so, but you never know. So that's why you have to flood the gates.
That's fascinating. The idea of gathering the best information as being a really primary job function. As you to move up in an organization, the way you move up is by becoming great at making informed decisions,
Yes.
at making it as the best information you can, and how you do that.
Yep.
I'm not sure I've ever heard it articulated quite like that. Certainly, I'm gonna have to make good decisions, and I have to,
Right.
hit the numbers and be action oriented.
Right.
But the fundamental uh, underpinning of all that, the best people will get the best information and seek it out from those who are the experts, and not.
And it has a direct impact on some of the metrics that we typically see as far as promotion and advancement, right? So
Yeah.
because I generally try to run a culture like that, so it's not exclusive to my housekeeping team. It's the same thing with my front desk team. It's the same thing with my direct reports. It's the same thing with my personal training department, my spa department, my group fitness department. In general, we have a culture of empowerment and collaboration and respect. So these people, my people are happier. They want to be in a space like that. Makes the job easier.
Yeah.
Because of that, I have high retention. My team doesn't change very much. We get more reps working together and doing the job at a high level, right? So
Yeah.
that has a direct impact on our sales and our competencies, doing our technical competencies, doing our job. We have
Yeah.
more reps and we have more reps together, right? Because we have a more tenured team who is growing together and getting better at the job every day just because they have the reps. You're seeing that data come out in revenue, right?
Yeah.
It is no mistake that my club is a high achieving club revenue wise. Why?
Yeah.
We're not distracted and wasting time training new people all the time, trying to reinvent the wheel every few months,
Yeah.
right? We're taking away the distraction so people can be laser focused on the technical aspects of that job. So that type of culture, that investment into people is a long-term investment into the data points that you may value right now.
Yeah.
And it's directly related in my sense. And it also it allows me as a leader to have work-life balance
Hmm.
because I'm so confident at the team. Like, because I collaborate with them on a daily basis, I know or have a good idea of strengths and the things they'll do when I'm not there and I'm not over their shoulder. So when I'm away, I don't worry. I would not know that or have that sense of security if I never really engaged with them. Like,
Yeah.
I've been through the fitness and the operational trenches with them on a
Yes.
daily basis, right? And so these investments into your people, into an inclusive environment, and leading inclusively have all sorts of intended and unintended outcomes that are favorable to business. And so that's the business case. When I first started in this field, it was really the language of like what feels warm and good on the
Yep.
inside. Like, do diversity and inclusion because all people matter, and that matters too. Okay, it does.
Hmm.
But doing this work and going to school and just learning the science behind it and actually practically applying a lot of this in my workspace has allowed me to pick up other languages and dialects in inclusion.
Mm.
And so, again, I'm adapting my teachings and my education to who's in front of me. And
Yeah.
through conversation and collaboration, I can deduce pretty early in a conversation which language I have to speak to make my inclusive, whatever teachings land. I'll
Yeah.
know if I need to talk to you about turnover and how inclusion affects that. If I need to talk to you about employee relations, because there's a lot of conflict and chaos, if I need to approach it from that perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I'll need to talk to you about it from a revenue perspective and how it impacts that. I have all this information. I'm what you said, data collecting. I'm an educated consumer of my industry and inclusion, such that whoever's in front of me and whatever matters to them, I have a way to attempt to bridge that gap between what I'm trying to say and what matters to them. And each
Mm-hmm.
person might be different,
Yeah.
right? And that's leadership though. Leadership is not knowing that I'm right and saying, look, damn it, be inclusive so that everybody feels special. That might not resonate with this person. They might not give a damn if people feel special,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
will give a damn if they're wasting 30% of their revenue because they're retraining general managers every 5 months, every 6 months. They might care about that. And so,
Gosh.
yeah, practice. I'm getting a lot of practice at these things.
There's a I don't know if there's an emerging school of thought in politics. It's probably been around for a long time, but I'm hearing it more and more, and that's um, when people think about a candidate who they like, they don't really when you dig into people's preferences, it's not so much do you like that candidate, it's do you think that that candidate likes you?
Mm,
Do they like people like you? Do they
mm,
care about people like you?
mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's probably gets to a pretty basic human need, and it's the same thing with leadership. Like what you're describing, what I'm imagining is a leader that's just intentional about understanding and finding a way, whether it's through connection or making people at least feel like they're seen and heard. And when you're seen and heard, you kind of feel like you're liked too. And I think
Yeah,
we all just kind of, we all kind of want to be liked.
yeah,
So, it's not doesn't mean you're needy. It just means, yeah, this person kind of gets me. Uh,
yeah.
and I have people in my life who I don't think I agree with on 95% of the things, but the 5% of the things that we do are some of the most special people in my life because
Powerful.
that because we get each other on a certain level.
Right. It's two really big sort of concepts. It's this idea of reciprocity
Mm,
is huge, and similarity attraction,
yeah.
and this idea of transaction.
Hmm.
I give this, I get this, it makes sense. Or I give this and I get more of what I want. Right? I give an opinion and I get celebrated. That's definitely a place I want to be.
Yeah.
And so when you listen and you validate people, um, they're more likely to give more of themselves, period.
Hmm.
Period. And you can reap the benefits of that as an organization. When you don't value people and you diminish and you don't set them up and you don't give them access, you don't give them seats at the table and voices to speak with, platforms, then they don't give their all.
Yeah.
Is very trans. So the concept of reciprocity is active, live, and well in all the things that we do, all over life. Similarity attraction is a really interesting one because it says that we are more likely to partner, align, go along with people who we deem are similar to us socially.
Mm.
And that can be exclusionary if you don't do it the right way. So if you're saying that I'm going to align with her because she's black, or like in my case, with her because she's black, or she's from the Bronx, or because she went to Georgetown, very surface line things,
Mhm.
you can run the risk of misalignment and also marginalizing people who are actually really similar to you.
Hmm.
And so what you have to do pretty early on, either through dialogue, well, mostly through dialogue, is try to find deeper level connections of similarity. So
Yeah.
what I told you, when I'm speaking to people, I'm digging deeper than what I see,
Yeah.
trying to get to more of the core of who they are. And then when I can base my similarity attraction on that, I'm going to have a more productive and inclusive attraction or similarity or ability to collaborate and communicate and things like that. And so in organizations, what you want that main similarity to be, that main connective piece, is your mission, your shared value, your value system, right? You want the people to buy into that. And so that's why you have to be clear, you have to be inclusive in your mission.
Mm.
And then people from all walks of life, all social circles, all cultural backgrounds will align behind your product, your service based off that shared mission.
Mm.
But you don't get to reap the benefits of that if you don't allow that to happen.
Mm.
And if you don't actually go about your organizational practices and your leadership development and your local engagement in a way that reinforces the mission statement, you're not going to be able to reap the benefits of that. And so those are two really prevailing and overlapping concepts when you talk about human or employee relationships in organizations, and organizational leadership or organizational inclusion,
Mm.
reciprocity and similarity attraction, and being able to harness that to get the best out of people so that your business can get the best out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to overcome this. Do we sort ourselves out by these very snap judgments of similarity attraction? Is that kind of how
Yeah. It's
you walk
normal.
into situations, and that's that's normal, and then we need to be very intentional about overcoming that.
So you have to own that that's normal,
Yeah.
know that it's happening, and then be
Being aware of
intentional
that's probably a huge step, right? Just being aware that that's happening.
and extend grace, because that's totally normal.
Yep.
Totally normal, right? We learned that at birth to stay close to our mom.
Yep.
Okay. Members of our family, things like that. Go walk home with your friends, right? So that's a normal thing. But as leaders and in organizations, you have to be cognizant of that. And then there has to be systems in place, either from the people or from the leaders who should know these kind of things, to manufacture opportunities to find deeper level similarities.
Yeah.
So you have to understand the problem in order to like prevent the problem. And so what that is more dialogue, more engagement, social events, things like that early on before people can get deep into their biases and start misaligning their similarities. And so yeah, it's an intentional practice that any organization that's struggling with sort of like in-group out-group dynamics, subcultures, fault lines based off of like protected classes and all of that, if you see that happening in your organization, they're generally one of the elements of an intervention plan or strategy is going to be like give them more opportunities to find other people to like. Essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Well, my friends,
Yes.
as per usual, we
Yeah.
have gotten ourselves caught up in a long, thoughtful,
Yes.
mutually beneficial conversation. This is sort of the
Yes.
epitome of our friendship here.
Yes.
Were there any other topics you wanted to cover? Any other questions that you had?
I think this has been a very fast 90 minutes.
It has
Um, and
been
if I
long.
bring up another topic, I'll need another 90
You
minutes.
got me all night. I mean, I know you have
You
responsibilities, and
know,
I do
as
too.
dance dad, I need to do some carpooling here shortly.
Listen, I don't want no smoke with the dancers, okay? So let me not
I
keep daddy
you'll
from
understand.
dancer duty.
You know, you mentioned dance before though, and is like and how much fun and joy that brought you. I don't think my daughter thinks about my youngest daughter doesn't think about dances being as physical activity. But then
Mhm.
she'll be like, Dad, like, check out my muscle, you know? And
Right.
she's like in incredible. She's 14 years old. She's in
Yeah.
amazing shape. Um, she just loves it. She loves being with the girls, you know,
What kind
4
of
nights a week.
dance?
Yeah.
What format of dance is she into?
All it's she does the ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical, um, point one, point two.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dancers are athletes, and I mean, look at the fitness industry has modeled so many group exercise trends based off that bar and
yeah,
all that stuff. So yeah, she is strong, and that's the way we want fitness to hit people. We want them to not even know that they're doing fitness because they're
right,
just doing something that they love, and the happy side effect is that they're building muscle, they're building resilience, they're building stronger bones, they're happier and all of those things. That's how dance was for me as a child. And that's why, when I made that connection, like I need to lean into the stuff that I would do regardless of the fitness aspect. That's the way to reach our youth. That's the way to reach our aging community. That's the way to reach, all the people that are suffering from obesity and things like that. We have to be intentional about understanding what moves them, what
yeah,
motivates them.
yes,
And this is probably a wicked joke, but I used to have this client that loved to drink wine. That was like her thing. And she was like,
yeah.
listen, this is the death of me because I drink so much wine that I'm like wearing it. And so we'd be working out and I'd be dangling imaginary cup of wine. So she'd be doing a crunch and I'd be above her and I'd be like, grab this cup of wine, girl. Nope, can't have it. Grab this cup of wine. And so that was my way of meeting
Yes,
her where she was. You
yes,
motivated, you motivated by wine. I got your wine.
yes. That's understanding, and without understanding that relationship, you wouldn't have got there with her. That's
Right, right. Well, my friend, we do have more to talk about. So this means you have to promise to come back. Do you promise?
I would be honored. Um, and we'll see each other again real soon. I still think
Yes.
about the time we saw each other in the airport. That was I was
Such
on
a vibe.
1 hour of sleep. I was in a fog. I wasn't even sure if I was actually fully awake. It was, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, 5 a.m. And
Yep.
all the people, there you were. And I remember thinking, like, all the people I could see in the world right now, Michaela's, like the top tier of people that I would, because I could barely speak, but it was just like, it's just this nice, like, it's really good to see you, my friend, right now.
No, and I felt the same way because that was such a short trip on the West Coast that like literally as soon as I started getting my sleep timing together, it was time to come back to the East Coast. So I was dragging as well.
Yeah.
And I feel this way, airport or no airport, that every time I see you, it's just you come with that huge smile,
Make me
and
smile.
you just, I don't know, you brighten my day. I love
Thank you.
how open-minded you are and how engaging, how thoughtful. We just have the most thoughtful conversations. So I was definitely excited to see you at the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning, coming on back home. But that mimics how I feel every time I see you, including tonight. So I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Thank
I
you
want
so
to thank
much.
the audience for dialing in, and hopefully you took away some nuggets of information and some lessons. I definitely learned a bunch from my good friend Tom. And yeah, as always, this wraps up another great episode of Live, Learn, and Exercise. We'll see you next time. I had an amazing time, really connecting with my good friend Tom. I want to thank him once again for lending his time and his genuine care on these topics and his expertise to what I thought was a robust conversation about something so simple, but something so meaningful to human relationships and relations. And some key takeaways from our discussion are that nothing of substance comes without rigor, right? Think about anything you've accomplished in life, anything that was worth anything to you, and think about if it came about easily or if there was some work and maybe some pain or maybe some struggle that came along with that journey. And I think that inclusion and fitness are no different in that respect. We also talk about the incredibly powerful dynamic and experience of perspective taking and how it doesn't strip anything away from an individual to acknowledge another individual's perspective, and how when you can empathetically take perspective and empathetically show up as your authentic self, how that could open the door for collaboration and dialogue, and then even in some instances, conflict management in a way that you had never dreamed of. And these are a lot of the skills and actually the lessons that I've learned through my 20+ year career in the fitness industry. And it's something that I definitely know to be true as, a scholar of inclusive leadership. So I want to thank Tom again for really pushing me to think a little bit more critically about these concepts and triggering conversations that allowed me to articulate those things, because that connection between inclusion and in general fitness. So when I say fitness, I mean physical fitness, I mean mental fitness, emotional fitness, relational fitness, all of that. That connection is an inseparable one. It's a cyclical one. And it's one that if we really hone, that we can open up a whole new world of possibilities. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for engaging us, whether it's through your thought or through your written word in the comments. Please continue to check in with me on this, because I'm really curious to hear your feedback on the items that we discuss. Okay. But before you absolutely leave me today, you know what we have to do. Let's go over the legal stuff. And don't forget, subscribe, like, share, comment. I need all that. Thank you. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or affiliate content providers. The information shared is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, including but not limited to medical, psychological, or coaching services. Listeners are encouraged to consult with their qualified practitioners for guidance tailored to their personal needs and circumstances.